Hello! I shot this video inside because last time I made a video outside, someone said that I was sacrificing my retinas or scorching my retinas out for you all, and I thought that was probably going a bit far, and I'd better not prioritise a nice view quite so much. I think one of my eyes seemed to react more than the other eye because of where the sun was coming from, and I had it, I found it quite challenging. So I'm going to leave it here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. A personality disorder is usually so I'm going to leave it here. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. So in this video, I look at Amber Heard's conversation with Johnny Depp, and I think that she has some behaviours that would fit with traits of borderline personality disorder, and some that would fit with traits from narcissistic personality disorder. So I'm not saying that she has either of these personality disorders, because we can only go on what happens in this conversation. You can't really even say someone has a trait based on only one context. But I do think it's a good example to look at, because there are so many times where she behaves abusively in this conversation.
I thought that we had some sort of game plan.
I told you what I needed. You said we should make a list, but yet you don't. Seeing the counselor is not going to it's not going to do it. It's not alone. We've got to change how we do things. And I want to trust you, and I feel like all the trust is gone. All the fucking trust is gone in the relationship because you keep splitting.
I'm not going to be in a physical fucking altercation with you.
Then don't.
You fucking hit me last night. You fucking...
What about all the other times you split? Come on, you cannot act like that. It's about that. It's
well,
not.
Well, on a plane, I can't split.
No, and you hit back. So don't act like you don't fucking participate.
I pushed you.
I'm not going to get into the details of that fight.
She has been physically violent. So what we can gather from this is that they have these arguments. Amber will get really angry, and then Johnny Depp will leave the room, or he'll get away from the situation. And Amber hates that he does this. When he says, "I pushed you," that could be that he was protecting himself, that he was pushing her away from him. And, and so we don't know for sure what the details are, but it's interesting how when he says that, she doesn't disagree, and she quickly changes the subject. And it seems to me that's because what he says isn't what she wants to hear. She wants to hear that they're both as bad as each other.
You and I both know that you split when there is no physical violence involved. And that you do it at the very beginning of fights these days. And if you split and you go into a different room and you don't actually leave that house, it does nothing but perpetuate the fight. Really, when you split on me, how do you feel when I leave you?
When I split, when I go into the other room, you say.
And getting me a room, getting another room at a hotel is just the same thing.
When did I get another room at a hotel?
You text Steven or Nathan in Toronto to get you another room. It's chronic. It happens all the time. And if you do it to go into another room, you do it and you get dressed.
You were fucking screaming at me.
I'm not going to validate my actions last night. I feel very bad.
No, I'm talking in Toronto.
I did not start screaming until you had fucking said all the shit. You poke an animal enough, it is eventually done, no matter how friendly it is or how cool. So
she's just compared herself to an animal, so she seems to be acknowledging that she is out of control, but she's also blaming him for that. So So she's putting the blame onto him for the fact that she can't contain her emotions and loses control of herself. And I think that, that is a very common tactic that's used by an abuser, to blame somebody, to blame the person they're abusing for the abuse itself. So you're making me do this to you.
Not done this to you. I have not said these things to you. I have not started to fight by saying I'm going to get another room. And I'm not going to sit here and fight about fucking Toronto anymore.
Her volume gets louder when he tries to speak. She is not interested in what he has to say about this. She doesn't want to hear about his feelings or his experiences. She just wants him to hear her. And I think that that's got something to do with shame, that she doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't want to see herself in a certain light. And if she lets him speak, then she might have to see something in herself that she doesn't want to see. And it also shows a lack of empathy, that she's not interested in his point of view or what he's been experiencing.
Guess what? I let it go. I'm not fucking talking about Toronto.
Send me the tapes.
I can whisper it. I can write it. Guess what? I'm not saying another fucking word about Toronto. I'm so sick and tired of fucking fighting about old fights. This is not about a fight. This is broad. This is a broad thing. And if I'm telling you every single time you get dressed and you fucking split the top of a fight, you never fucking try and work it out, you never fight for me, you never come to me, you never self-calm, you never self-soothe, you're never the one to throw the olive branch, I'm sick and tired of it, it needs to fucking change.
So she's just said that he doesn't self-calm and he doesn't self-soothe. So bear that in mind throughout this conversation, because it becomes clear, it's already clear from the way she's behaving, but it becomes clear that in general in their relationship, it's actually her who has the biggest issue with that. So it's interesting that she's pointing the finger at him, that she's telling him that he does something that that she has a real problem with herself. This kind of projection where of saying you're doing this when the person is in fact doing it themselves is really common when it comes to narcissistic abuse.
And you can go, I can't meet those demands, I can't do it, or you can fucking promise me so I have a modicum of safety, I feel a modicum of respect, a little tiny shit sliver of fucking like, you are in this whether it is good or bad, down and up, lows and highs, tough and easy.
You got the tapes, let me hear them. Send me the fucking recordings. Just text them to me.
I don't know how else to say I will to you. I haven't, because we have not been well. We have not been good. When I fucking move out, if I move out, then you'll have them and you can fucking relish them. You won't fucking like it, what you hear. Won't make you happy. But you'll hear what I'm telling you. That was after Toronto.
Yeah, that's when we came back here.
I know where we were.
Toronto, Boston, here,
I know where we were. We've been on the road basically since Australia, and I have been at your side. And I have not been filming a movie.
Well, we were on our honeymoon. I hope you were at my side.
I'm not talking about just a honeymoon, now am I? I'm talking about many months. And was it all the honeymoon? No. I have been at your side throughout it all. You said, why did you come to Rio? And I answered you. I would love for it to be better. I have no fucking consistency, no safety, no security. The relationship is something you don't fight for, you don't stand up for, you always run from when it's tough. I'm telling you, I need more. We didn't say vows. You didn't make them exactly in that way, But now is the fucking time. I need to know if you're going to be there. I want promises. I told you that at the beginning of this conversation. I need promises that you're going to fucking be there. I need promises that this is important to you. Not when it's easy, when it's hard too. This is something you'll fight for. That this is something that's sacred, that neither of us throw out every fight. I can't be the only one to hold the promises. I was in Toronto and it fucked me over. I can't be the only one. You can't be the only one. If I split on you, all those times that I thought about doing it, we would not be here. And I stayed, and it's tougher. You know, that's stronger. I'm stronger. It is easy to run. It is easy to run away from problems. It is easy to take that out and say, well, that's the easiest. That's the best, safest. That's the safest way out. I'm not saying we should get in physical altercations. I never want to be in that. Never. But every time you don't like what I say and you fucking run away, will never work out anything. You can't run away every fight.
So far, we understand that he leaves the room when she gets really angry, when she's out of control. It sounds like she can be screaming at him. And we don't really know much more because he hasn't had a chance to speak. This is just her with a raised voice just going on and on at him. And that's another narcissistic trait, to monopolize a conversation.
You can't. It's easy. It's not brave. It's not strong. It's harder to say to somebody, I want to work this out. I want to face what I have. I want to face what you have. I want to work it out with you. You're not working it out. You're running away. And then you make me be the bigger person every single time and come to you and knock on the door and come to this house and say, hey, we're married. It's supposed to be sacred. Calm down.
I made you.
Yes, by default. If you're never the one to do it, one of us is. And I'm the one to do it every time. It means I'm the bigger person every time. It means I have to be the strong one. It means every time I have to fight for our relationship. And you get to be you get to be lazy. You get to be cowardly. I don't know what it is.
What are you here for? What do you need me for?
Once again, I am fighting for the relationship.
With a guy that you don't fucking trust or like? Why?
I did not say I didn't like you. I love you. You're my favorite person in the world.
I don't see how
I remember what I said at the beginning. I'm sorry you feel like you can't imagine it. But I said this to you at the beginning of this conversation. I said, you're my favorite person in the whole world. If you weren't the most magnetic, shiny, beautiful, interesting, dynamic person I had ever met in my life, it would be so easy to walk away from this bratty thing that you do.
Untrustworthy.
Did you hear what I just said? Yeah. I said I can't trust. That's not meaning you're untrustworthy. It means that we've created a situation. And I'm telling you what you do to create it too. We've created a situation in which trust can't grow. It's like it's trampled every single time, and we need a marriage. That's why I sat down. Do you not remember me sitting down at the very beginning of this conversation and saying just that to you? Saying, I know you got married for security and for safety. So did I. We did not get married because it was something that we're doing, because it was something we could walk away. We wanted a foundation. No?
I wanted to make you my wife.
Yes, but you could just have me as your girlfriend if you didn't want the foundation. And you told me, and maybe you go back on it now. Fine, okay, cool. Lie about that. I don't know. You told me you wanted a foundation. You told me you wanted the security. You wanted the safety. You liked the foundation. At the beginning, you said, I really like having that. It feels safe. So don't argue with me when I say it now.
I'm not arguing with you.
Oh, yeah, but you had to pick it apart.
So the impression that she's giving us, I think the impression that she wants to give to him in this conversation is that she's really committed to the relationship. So she has all the right intentions, but he isn't, because whenever they have a confrontation, he runs away. And when you don't have any context for that, it sounds like she is more committed to the relationship than him. And that's certainly what she wants him to see or to believe.
By saying because I loved you and you're my wife, I wanted you to be my wife, that's picking it apart?
No.
Then how did I pick it apart?
Forget it. I don't want to do this. I don't want to fight about a fight. I don't want to fight about the semantics. I don't want to.
How come when I come up with a point, you can't answer it? You don't want, or suddenly you don't want to answer it?
What am I not answering? Because I don't want to fight about this new thing? No, I don't want to. I said you wanted the safety and security, and you stopped me. You interrupted me, and then you said what? Because because I wanted to have you as my.
I didn't interrupt you. You asked me, right? You said right.
I meant you interjected. I meant you said. You said. How about that? See, now, is this better? I answered you. I addressed what you're saying. Now can we please not fight about that?
And I said, because I love you.
You said loved.
Look at everything she does to not hear him. He's staying really calm, he's speaking respectfully, politely, calmly, and she picks apart everything he says, but she says he's picking her apart just because he responds to her. Because he doesn't immediately say yes in response, because you know, she's just said that you wanted to marry me for stability. And he's saying, I wanted to marry you because I loved you. And so that's enough now. That's not agreeing enough with her. And so she has to push whatever he's saying away because it doesn't go with her narrative. She's trying to explain how he's in the wrong because he's not making the relationship secure enough, because he's not staying in the room when she explodes. So just him not going along with that he married her purely for security, that because he says it was out of love, and that doesn't quite, it doesn't sum up her argument enough. You know, it's not enough, it's not reinforcing her argument enough. She has to attack him on, I think she's now done it in about 3 ways, just over a few moments. She said that he picks things apart, that he's interrupted, he's interjected, and then now she said that he is saying that he loved her. He used the past tense. So she tries everything just to not listen to one thing that he says. That's, you know, and then she says that she doesn't want an argument as if he does. So I've actually counted on my fingers, that's actually 5 different ways now that she has criticised what he's said, when all he's done is, in response to her saying right and asking him, do you agree, he's said that it was because of love that he married her, rather than because he was so insecure and needed security. It sounds like she's the one that needed that security so badly. But if she acknowledges that, if she acknowledges that they aren't exactly the same, then she has to acknowledge that she is responsible for her own feelings.
Well, we're talking about a fucking event that's past tense. If I used loved, my apologies, it doesn't mean I don't love you now. Try. Let's both try. If there's anger, if there's something fucking really fucking poking us in the ass, let's try. Try not to fucking fight. Try to address it without jumping down each other's throats, because all that's going to do is build a mountain of fucking resentment, some species of fucking hatred within the love, and so totally fucking mistrust, because you say you don't trust me. I get it, okay. I'm flake, I'm a this, I'm a that.
I didn't
All
say
right.
as a person. I was speaking specifically about this. I don't trust the marriage. I don't trust you. I don't feel safe with it because you always fucking bail on it.
Well, then
That's
I don't know, you know.
I want the trust back. I don't. You can deflect all you want. Say it's my fault. Say how dare I get angry at you ever. Whatever. I'm telling you.
I'm telling you.
I don't know.
I don't know.
You. I don't know what.
And
the
sometimes
thing
I
is.
don't. I don't want to fucking be there and go through the shit. I don't, man. I don't.
I know.
And I don't want to, because I don't want to fucking fight.
But it doesn't have to be one. It's not like I'm saying, hey, choose fight.
You just said I get mad, I'm gonna scream.
No, I didn't say that's always the case. I said, yeah, I'm mad. It happens. It happens.
Yes, I know. It happens often.
If you think I'm some fucking tyrant or bully, then don't fucking be with me. But don't sit here and insult me like I'm the fuck up because I have the...
But you're the
audacity to
one
get
saying
mad.
that I'm the tyrant and the bully and at the same time the
have
guy
called
that
you a
runs
bully,
away and
You run away every single fight.
Okay, so I mean, then what are you
Then I'm not
doing
lying
with me?
about it.
Then what are you doing with me?
I already answered that. We went through this conversation literally 5 minutes ago. I answered this already 5 minutes ago.
You just said to me that I shouldn't be with you.
No, I said if
That's
you.
what I feel.
No, I said if I'm some, harping bully, which is what you make me sound like. Like I'm like constantly on you, making you feel bad. That's what I do. And then you ignore everything. You take me for granted. You're ignoring everything that I do for you. You make me sound terrible. You talk about me in a terrible way. You do not fight for me. And then you want to sit here and make me sound so
What do you mean
terrible
I
to be
don't
around.
fight for you?
You
What's that
don't.
mean?
Everything I've already explained.
No,
10 minutes
No,
before.
fight for you. I don't understand. What does
You
that mean?
never, ever do the work. Put in the work. If we're arguing about something, you don't ever try to get to the bottom of it, figure out, make the peace. You want to make it easy on you, so you split. You don't fight for me. You don't fight when there's a problem. You don't come to me. You don't make peace with me. You never extend an olive branch. You're never the bigger guy. You're never the one that's like, okay, I'm going to put my own feelings aside for a second and say, this is bigger than us. Let's stop fighting. You never are the one to come and knock on my door. You take me for granted.
It's not true. It's not true. I'm not the one who fucking throws fucking pots and
Those are different.
whatever
That's
the
different.
fucking else at me.
That's different. That's one does not negate the other. That's irrelevant. It's a complete non sequitur. Just because I've thrown pots and pans does not mean that you come and knock on the door. Just because there are vases does not mean that you come and knock on the door.
Really, I should just let you throw.
I'm not saying that. You're saying that. You're putting words in my mouth and then making non sequiturs.
I'm giving you a situation.
So what he's just said makes a lot of sense. He's making a good point, isn't he? That is he expected to just stay in the room while she throws pots and pans at him? And she says it's a non sequitur, which means that it doesn't follow on from what she's been saying, as if he's changing the subject. But how is he doing that? He isn't. And so she is playing around with logic and saying something that actually makes no sense, rather than face up to being responsible for her own behaviour. So now we understand that his reason for leaving the room when they have these confrontations is that her behaviour becomes violent. And she's seeing it as that she's being abandoned by him. So I think that tells us a lot about her, because not only does it show that she isn't empathizing with him, but it also shows a lack of insight into herself, certainly at the moment in this part of the conversation. And I think that would be, again, linked to shame, because she doesn't want to see herself as someone that people would need to run away from to protect themselves. So as long as she doesn't empathize with him, she doesn't have to see herself in that light. But she's also showing us how she's really sensitive to being abandoned, and this fear of abandonment seems to be a really big thing for her, because if it wasn't, then you'd probably expect someone to leave the room if you become violent, and it wouldn't really be a big issue for you that they'd had to run away from you. But the fact that even when she's behaving like that, she still finds it incredibly painful that he leaves the room, means that something else is going on for her in her head. You know, she's not seeing this as a reflection of her being abusive. She's seeing it as that there's something about her that isn't worth enough. There's something about her that people want to get away from, because she's an unworthy person. She's someone that people feel repulsed and repelled by. So you can start to see that there's some of that kind of belief system going on in her. People with borderline personality disorder have deep feelings of emptiness that they're looking to fill. You know, there's this big void inside them that they look to other people to help them to fill. And they have extreme emotional swings. They can have extreme outbursts of anger, and they're terrified of being abandoned. People who have borderline personality disorder also tend to be in relationships that are really unstable. And you can see in this situation how Johnny Depp sounds really calm, but some of her behaviour could become infuriating. And I think that's partly also because she seems to me to have narcissistic traits as well, which means that she can't take responsibility for her own behaviour. Somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder has a mask. So in other words, they can't acknowledge they can't acknowledge vulnerable feelings, you know. They have to identify with this mask. And you see quite a lot of that as well in this conversation, and that just adds a whole other dimension that I think could be potentially even more infuriating, you know, and make it even more difficult for the other person. That on top of the borderline behaviour, there are also these narcissistic traits that are going to lead to more manipulation of the abused person, so that the abuser doesn't have to accept responsibility, and so that they can just continue to heap the blame onto the other person. And on top of this narcissistic trait of not being able to cope with shame and having to load it onto somebody else, which causes all of this manipulation, there's also the paranoia and the distrust that someone with borderline personality disorder can have. So that means that some of these accusations are going to come from a genuine place, you know, thinking the worst of somebody. And somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder also has distrust in people. There's I've talked about schema in other videos, that you have that it's a sort of framework for how you see the world, your belief system. And somebody who has narcissistic personality disorder will have a mistrust abuse schema very often, and so that means that they're likely to see the worst in the other person. So when you combine all of these traits together, you can see why an abusive person would play the victim role and create an abuser in somebody else, because they don't trust other people, and because and also because they're avoiding their own shame.
No, you're trying to justify how you don't or do come to the door.
No,
based
I'm
on whether I throw pots and pans. It's irrelevant.
No, I'm justifying how you seem to think that there's this cowardice in me that runs away and I don't fight for you.
And you're justifying that by saying I throw pots and pans? Okay, cool. Let's talk about everything you do wrong.
I'm not the one who fucking did that. I didn't.
So that makes sense. That's clear. Yeah.
The only time I ever threw anything at you was when you fucking threw the cans at me in Australia.
Why are you trying to justify who throws things based on whether or not you come knocking on the door?
Because that is a fucking irrational and violent fucking maneuver. So a man would want to get out of that area so that he doesn't get so fucking angry that he actually does pop the fucking wife.
So what he's doing is he's showing us that he takes responsibility for himself. If he feels like his anger is going to get out of control, he leaves the room. But she doesn't respond empathically, or she's certainly not impressed with that, even though what she does is the opposite. She doesn't worry about whether she feels out of control around him. It doesn't matter if she hurts him. She wants him to stay there while it happens, and she resents him for leaving the room. So this again shows a lack of empathy, and a need to have attention all the time. Both of those are narcissistic traits, as well as a complete lack of responsibility for herself. And here we also, I think, start to see traits, a trait here of borderline personality disorder, which is this real fear of abandonment, that it's really important that she's not abandoned, and him leaving the room is really hard for her, even though he explains why he's doing it, is because he's feeling really angry after being provoked by having things flung at him. But as we'll see through the rest of this conversation, this out of control need that to have him not leave the room, it seems to come from a fear of being abandoned, and when it happens, she sort of just loses control of herself. But we'll see more and more through this conversation how she just can't cope with him leaving at a time like that, no matter what he says through this conversation and how rational it is and mature. It doesn't matter. She can't handle the fact that she's been left. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter what she's doing or how how sort of extreme her behaviour is. He mustn't leave because something happens to her when someone leaves her.
How does one inform the other?
Oh, man. Go home and listen to the tape. Please. That's what they're for.
Yes. You listen to the fucking tape.
Oh, I'm gonna.
I'm not going to sit here and promise you I'll never get mad at you or that you'll never fuck up. I know you want to live in a world where everyone just says yes to you and doesn't question you or criticize you ever.
Don't insult me like that, please.
But that's not the case. It's not why you're with me. I am honest with you. I'm sorry. You don't want to be held accountable. I get it.
I'm not sure you're so honest with me.
Well,
she is the one who continues to tell him that his reason for escaping isn't relevant. So while she says to him he doesn't want to be held accountable, that's what she's doing. She, throughout this conversation so far, will not be held accountable for her own behaviour. So she's turning the tables on him. It's another sort of very common form of abuse, and the reason she does that and the reason people do that is to project their shame onto someone else so they don't have to feel it. They can feel like they're in the right, even if it's totally irrational.
that's your...
Watching you live in front of Travis last night was really a
That's your problem, and that's your whole thing that you've created. So I'm not going to sit here and go over every fight we've had. I'm not going to refight this fight. You have something you're holding on to about Travis. Fucking go fuck.
He has said she lied last night, and she has said that's your problem, you created it. So she is blaming him for the fact that she has lied. She isn't saying that she didn't lie at this point, but she's saying that it's his fault that she lied. So again, it's his fault. A reflex reaction of hers is to put the blame onto somebody else and not take responsibility. So it's another narcissistic behaviour, and again, it's an avoidance of shame.
You know, go do it. Go run away together. I don't know what you're fucking holding on to, but you have created that. I have no part of that. I don't know what you're fucking latched onto in your brain, what stray hairs have fucking commingled and tangled in your brain to make you think you've really figured some sort of thing out. But this is not unusual for you. It's like almost every fight, I can pretty much guarantee you find something that you can like manipulate.
Let's ask Travis tonight.
You latch onto something that suggests that he is seeing things in a skewed light. He's blowing one small thing into something that it isn't. So what she's doing is she's gaslighting him now.
Yes, why don't we invite Travis into our fucked up, broken ass, 3 fucking wheeled truck of a marriage. Why don't we crash it straight into the wall? Because no one knows us better than fucking Travis.
You're just afraid that the truth will come out.
What truth?
That you lied.
What are you fucking talking about? I didn't fucking even have a fucking thing to lie about. What are you fucking talking about? Every fucking fight, there's a new thing that you've convinced yourself is a lie.
I said to you, Amber, tell Travis what you just did. Did you just fucking, did you punch me in the fucking jaw? Did you fucking kick? Did you? Did you? And you wouldn't say a fucking reason. I don't know what you're talking about. Never fucking.
I see the
never
lie.
Fucking happened.
I see the lie. You really should run with this. In fact, maybe you and Travis can like go and like, you know, do a tell-all about what a an investigative
study. Stop with
study.
the attitude, right?
She said she didn't lie, and he responded with an example of her lying. And now she's behaving as if he is creating an argument. So all he was doing was disagreeing and giving evidence for why he disagreed. And she has made him into the aggressor, the person who's making an argument. So again, she's projecting her shame onto him and making him the persecutor.
Stop with the attitude.
Sorry.
You're getting all bunched.
Whatever you think happened with Travis, it wasn't a conversation.
Listen, I was not high.
I'm not going to.
You lied. You're an asshole.
You were fucking full of shit. What lie? When? What conversation did I have with Travis? Big investigative study you've done. I'm not sitting here and fighting with you about the fight that we had last night.
After you fucking got physically violent with me, I texted Travis. I said, "Come up here," because I didn't want anything to happen.
I mean, yeah.
It's coming. What? Save me?
No, go ahead. Continue. You. Travis to the rescue.
No, that was the last one. You can go. You go. That was the last insult.
Oh yeah. You called me a liar, and yet.
I watched you lie.
You called me a liar.
I watched you lie. I heard it. I was right there.
There's no what. You still haven't told me what lie it is. But yet, every single fucking time. You know you do this every single fucking time.
We'll talk to Travis.
I'm not fucking talking to nobody.
No,
fuck that. You go fucking jerk him off. I don't care. I really could care less. It's you every single time. You latch onto some sort of thing. When I already told you, I don't know what you're fucking talking about. You don't even know what you're talking about. You still haven't even told me what it is. But run with it.
She's lying because he's told her twice now. So to avoid having to face responsibility, she's now just pretending she didn't even hear him say what she did. A narcissist will tell lies that don't even make sense a lot of the time, just to confuse the other person. Because if the other person's confused and having to defend themselves, then they have the upper hand and the power. So it doesn't matter how irrational it is, what they're saying, they're not fazed by that. The important thing is that they're the one in control of the conversation.
I have told you what it is.
No, you haven't.
I said to Travis, I said to you, hey, tell Travis what just happened.
You told me to do it. You told me to. You said, go do that.
I said, no, tell him what just happened.
And I lied.
And that you punched me in the fucking thing. And you
figured
in
it
the face.
out.
And you said, no, I didn't. What the fuck are you talking about?
So now she's admitted it, but she's done it in such a way as to try to preempt him. So if she says, yes, I lied, you figured it all out, and in a sort of mocking way, then she still can try to have the upper hand, because while admitting it, she's not showing that she feels bad about it. She's trying to make him feel bad about pointing it out. So she's manipulating him, and she's trying to guilt trip him now, rather than take responsibility.
Talking about, and I watched you lie, and then I
didn't punch you. By the way, I'm sorry that I didn't hit you across the face in a proper slap, but I was hitting you. It was not punching you, babe. You're not punched.
Punching sounds more violent, so maybe she prefers to see herself as someone who would hit someone and not someone who would punch someone. Maybe hitting is a bit more palatable to her. So again, it's just not being able to swallow the truth about her own behaviour.
Don't tell me what it feels like to be punched.
Even a lot of fights have been around a long time. I know. Yeah,
no, when you fucking have a closed fist.
You didn't get punched. You got hit. I'm sorry I hit you like this, but I did not punch you. I did not fucking deck you. I fucking was hitting you.
You can't
I don't know
deck
what
me.
the motion of my actual hand was, but you're fine. I did not hurt you. I did not punch you. I was hitting you.
How are your toes?
What am I supposed to do? Do this?
How are your toes?
I'm not sitting here bitching about it, am I? You are.
Oh,
That's the difference
your
between
poor
me and
toes.
you. You're a fucking baby.
So Amber's argument here is that she isn't a baby because she's not complaining that her foot hurts after kicking Johnny Depp, but he is complaining about being punched by her. So I don't need to explain what a stupid argument that is, but I think it's really useful to look at because of her conviction, because people who are abused can often get thrown by the abuser's conviction that they're in the right. That's how it can come across anyway, that they're absolutely sure. So then the person who's being abused puts so much energy into trying to explain to them because they think it must be a misunderstanding. So they try to explain how it's actually the abuser who's doing the abusing, and that they're not being abusive themselves. And this can go on and on for years, this dynamic where people stay in abusive relationships because they think that there's this ongoing misunderstanding, that, if they could just make themselves clear, and if the narcissist could just understand what they're trying to say, and I use the term narcissist because it is such a narcissistic characteristic, because what's really going on is that they don't want to see their behaviour, and they don't want to see themselves as they really are. They put all of their focus on identifying with their mask because that's how they want to see themselves. So it's not in their interest to listen to the person that they're abusing. So there isn't going to be a moment where they suddenly say, "Oh, my logic's been flawed. I completely get it now. I'm so sorry. I've realised that all this time I've been abusing you and you've actually been the victim. And I've got everything wrong. I'm so sorry." That's not going to happen. So the person who's being abused is waiting for that moment if they can just be clear enough. And what they don't realise is that the person who is abusing them never wants to see this reality. So it's not in their interest to see it. That's how you might think that it is, but actually it's not. That their whole identity is reliant on this sort of fragile ground of an alternative reality that doesn't exist, So if they have to face up to it, then all of that will just be blown away, and they'll have to face up to who they really are. Having said that, what makes it even harder is that occasionally they might do all of that. They might say, "Oh, I get it now," and they might actually do everything I've just said they will never do. But when it happens, or if it happens, it will always, that responsibility they've taken will always suddenly disappear. And it could disappear, it could seem to take a week, or it could happen within an hour. That when you think, "Oh, they've taken responsibility, they get it," actually that comes to nothing. And we'll see Amber Heard doing that through this conversation. But what's so harmful about that is that the person who's being abused just gets more and more hope, because they think, "Oh no, they did see it, they saw it for a moment. Obviously I didn't quite explain it enough," because then they lost it again. They couldn't remember what they'd just learned. So I better just try again to explain it to them. And they're missing the fact that whatever just happened, the narcissist had, or the abuser, they had a reason to behave like that, to take responsibility briefly. It was in their interest briefly to do that. Maybe because they'd had enough of listening to reality, from the person who's being abused. They had enough of listening to how they're the abuser, and if they just admit it for a moment, it will just stop. They won't have to acknowledge that it's true. So they just, it's just lip service. They don't actually mean it when they take responsibility. They just appear to. Or they can mean it, and they can think, okay, yes, I'll take this on board. Maybe I am like that. But when they start to absorb it, they just can't. Like, it's too much. It would just turn their whole world upside down. So they quickly deny it. And the more the other person tries to explain and justify and defend themselves to the narcissist, to the person who's actually abusing them, the more that they try and do this, the more narcissistic supply the abuser gets, because they can see how much energy the other person is putting into this. And they can see that the other person is buying into the illusion, because they're believing that they have to justify themselves. So all of this is just adding to the energy of the abuser, and it can make them more and more aggressive. So he's told her that she had a closed fist, so it was a punch. And she doesn't deny it, that she had a closed fist. So in other words, it was a punch. But she says she doesn't know what her hand was doing. So now what she's doing is she's claiming to not remember, which is another way that a narcissist will get out of taking responsibility. But she's saying that she hit him, and now she's talking over him. So she's trying to stop the truth coming out, because if she listens to him and lets him actually speak and be heard, then she'll have to face the truth about her behaviour, and she doesn't want to.
Because you start physical fights?
Such a baby!
Because
Grow the fuck up,
because you start physical fights?
And when she can't really avoid the truth anymore, then she shames him. So she makes out that he is a complete wimp, that he couldn't even handle her punching him. If she can mock him, then she can again project her shame onto him, and again she doesn't have to face it. I'm going to leave this here and put out a second half. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.